Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Balabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Balabha Girivardhari Jasodanandana Brajajanaranjana Jasodanandana Brajajanaranjana Jamunatira Banachari Jamunatira Banachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Balabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Balabha Girivardhari Jasodanandana Brajajanaranjana Jasodanandana Brajajanaranjana Jamunatira Banachari Jamunatira Banachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur Hari Bol. Gaur Premanandi, Hari Bol. For some of the persons in the audience, it's been a very action-filled, lively weekend. Friday night, all day Saturday, Saturday night, and then again Sunday, with the fantastic wedding of Mukunda and Shruti. I guess the next few days is going to be recovery time for all those, although they're young and energetic, I'm sure. The kirtan went on last night till 9:30. They just exploded out of the temple Romapada to the sidewalk and down the street. And well, mothers had their turn, and now it's the fathers having their turn. It's Happy Father's Day for those of you who are fathers and maybe someday will be fathers. There's a lot more to say about mothers. A lot of literature and appreciations about mothers. Fathers, less information, less like glorification and those kinds of things. So I thought to speak about the original father of all fathers, of all living entities. Krishna speaks like that in Bhagavad Gita. Chapter 14 of Bhagavad Gita is the three modes of material nature. And Krishna begins the chapter saying something very similar to what he said earlier in chapter 9. He said, this is the best of all knowledge. And now he's saying it again. The best of all knowledge, knowing which all the sages have attained the supreme perfection. By becoming fixed in this knowledge, one can attain to the transcendental nature like my own. Then one more verse, then comes Krishna as a seed-giving father. So text 3, Mama Yonir Mahad Brahma, tasmin garbham dadamyaham sambhavak sarvabhuteshu tato bhavati bharata. The total material substance called Brahman is the source of birth, and it is that Brahman that I impregnate, making possible the births of all living beings. Text 4. Sarva yonishu kaunteya murtaya sambhavanti ya tasmat brahma mahad yonir aham bija padak pita. Prabhupada would often quote aham bija prada pita. I am the seed-giving father. In this case, the mother is Mahad Brahma. And this Mahad Brahma is the Mahad Yoni. Brahman has different meanings depending upon the application. And this is one of them. Mahad Brahman is the total material substance. Mahad Brahman. Then living entity is also Brahman. And the Supreme is Para Brahman. Sometimes simply said Brahman, but Para Brahman to differentiate. Brahman, Mahad means great, and Brahman, substance. So the substance from which life appears, but the life from which life appears is the seed. And material nature supplies, just as mothers supply the body, the father supplies the seed, and Krishna is the original seed giver. Purport, Srila Prabhupada's purport. In this verse it is clearly explained that Supreme Personality Godhead Krishna is the original father of all living entities. The living entities are combinations of the material nature and the spiritual nature. Such living entities are seen not only on this planet, but on every planet, even the highest where Brahma is situated. Everywhere there are living entities. Within the earth there are living entities, within the water, within fire. All these appearances are due to the mother, material nature, and Krishna's seed-giving process. The purport is that the material world is impregnated with living entities who come out in various forms at the time of creation according to their past deeds. This Bhagavad Gita is made up, according to Baladev Vidyabhusan, one way of analyzing. There's others. Bhagavad Gita has 5 topics. God, Ishvara, living entity, Jiva, Kala, or time, Prakriti, material nature, and Karma. Of those 5, 4 are eternal, and 1 is not eternal, or it's temporary, or it's asat. Appears to be real, but it's insubstantial. And Sat, that's the living entity, and the supreme living entity, Ishvara and Jiva, they're Sat. They're substantial. And we don't have creation or the fatherhood or the production of living entities without time. Just a little sharing with you because it connects. In the morning verses that we've been discussing in Srimad Bhagavatam at the Chicago Temple is Devahuti's prayers, not Devahuti, Devaki's prayers to Krishna within the womb. Excuse me, not in the womb. Try again. Krishna has appeared in the prison house of Kamsa. Vasudeva offers his prayers, Devaki offers her prayers, and it's really interesting. This is the mother and father seeing their child as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Imagine those of you who are parents. Knowing it clearly, not like, oh, my child is special, but very deeply philosophical explanation of his position, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and describing part of what Devaki is describing as the function of time. That's why I'm bringing it up. Because of these 5 topics of Bhagavad Gita, one is spoken about least, and that's time. But you don't have creation, you don't have activity, you don't have things without time. And it's described that this time energy is the Lord's Kriya Shakti. Kriya Shakti is how he gets things done. He wishes, Icha, and then the time energy, zoom, 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 there it goes, and things start to happen. It's the agency through which matter moves, and then that's the agency of time. I hope you don't mind a little philosophy. Time is eternal. However, for the purpose of creation, for Krishna to be the seed-giving father of all living entities, you have to have a different kind of time. Time that is past, present, and future, not eternal. And so that past, present, and future time, which is time as we know it, it's a sub-potency of the time energy of the Supreme Lord, or even more specifically, a sub-potency of Rama Devi's potencies, because eternal time is what happens in the Nitya Leela, the eternal pastimes of the Supreme Lord, including Mahavishnu enjoying his eternal pastimes with Rama Devi within. Have you ever seen a painting of Mahavishnu? The answer is no. Have you ever seen a painting of Mahavishnu with the goddess of fortune at his feet? Garbhodakshai Vishnu, yes. Kshirodakshai Vishnu, yes. Mahavishnu? No. Why no? Because she's within, because it's one entity, the energetic and the energy, and he is enjoying eternal pastimes within. That's called Yoga Nidra. Pastimes, eternal pastimes within. And one of those pastimes is the pastime of creation. It's a lila. It's a temporal, material time kind of lila. It's not a nitya lila. It's moved by the force of time, Kala Chakra. So during time as we know it, is sent by Ramadevi into the field of the material energy, this original impregnation being spoken of here, Mahad Brahma, the total material substance. Mahavishnu is, during the period of cosmic annihilation, all the living entities have been withdrawn within him. And that's a lot of living entities. Too many to count. And two compassionate desires. One, these living entities, they're my parts and parcels. I wish for them to experience the fullness of happiness, but now they're in this deep sleep, susupti state. He just has that thought, that desire, that compassionate desire. Ramadevi, she knows her eternal consort. She knows his compassionate mood, because time for the cosmic manifestation has come. So he has this desire. Another desire is off in the distance. He sees the reflection, or chaya, shadow of his internal potency, Rama. So Chaya Devi is wanting some service, and he feels compassion towards her, this Mahad Brahma mentioned here. So he wants to give her some service to do, so she'll be happy. Rama Devi knows that one too, because she's his eternal consort. So he doesn't do anything, he doesn't say anything, he just has this icha, this willing potency or desire. And off the living entities go. The totality of living entities are carried by Mahavishnu's glance, the living entities plus time, and that's time as we know it. The subpotency of eternal time under Rama Devi's direction. She controls so many subpotencies. And that's the original impregnation that's being spoken of here. And then a whole series of several chapters worth of detailed explanation of what happens. It's the original impregnation, and that those living entities, jivas, contacting Pradhan, it agitates Pradhan. As impregnation may agitate the womb of the mother, would-be mother. And there's no activity yet, there's no living entities yet, there's no forms yet. It's just, first comes the elements separate out, because they're undifferentiated. And then, as mentioned here, according to their past deeds. So karma, that's past deeds. Karma is dormant. It doesn't become zero, but it's dormant during cosmic annihilation. So what activates karma? Time and the living entities that are carrying that karma. But that karma is dormant, as their consciousness was dormant, and when there's time along with the living entities contacting matter, then the karma becomes agitated. And the modes of material nature are dormant until the living entities in time contact prakriti, or material nature. And then the modes of nature start doing their thing. There's no bodies yet. There's no activity yet. It's just an agitated state. But impregnation has occurred. Then there's a whole bunch of other series of very predictable steps. Very, very, very intricate, very intelligent, and then living entities come. Many, many, many steps. Well, so I'll skip all the many steps. But he's the original seed-giving Father, and he acts through the agency of time. This is now back to Devaki. She understands that the Vasudeva Krishna, the four-armed form of the Supreme Lord that has appeared before her, is the person under whom time is moving. And it's through time that he does what he does. Although he does nothing, it's the time energy that does the whole shebang. Time moves matter. And then she speaks specifically about dissolution. Now if you wanted to be Mahavishnu, you can't. But if you had that function, to bring about cosmic annihilation is really easy. You just withdraw time. And the whole thing collapses. As it unfolds, the whole thing collapses. Through the agency of time or the withdrawal of time. So she describes the detail of that. Here's another interesting one. The smallest unit of matter in Vedic language is the atom, Angsha. And the smallest unit of matter, the time that it takes for the sun to pass over that one atom, that's the smallest measure of time, material time. It's called the Nimesha. You know the verse from Chaitanya, from Lord Chaitanya's teachings, where he says, even a moment's separation seems like 12 years or more. You know that verse? Shikshastaka. Yagayitam nimeshena chakshusha pravasayatam. Nimesha. And you put a number of nimeshas together, you get the next unit of time, another of those together, you get the next unit of time, and keep going, you get a day, you get a minute, and you get an hour. Just keep going, and it's just nimeshas stacked up. And then you get the duration of the universe, 2 parardas, dvi-parardas. And then for the equal duration is the cosmic annihilation. It's just nimeshas, the sun passing over atoms. But the manifestation of atoms is dependent upon time. You pull the plug on time, and the atoms go back to their undifferentiated state, the elements that make them up. Or to speak of bodies and karma and everything else. Got to have time. Time energy. Not like, it's 6:06 p.m. Not that kind of time. But time energy. Kala Shakti. Kala Chakra. So Krishna is the seed-giving Father, original seed-giving Father of all living entities. And it's part of this act of creation, which then so the living entities are sent by the glance of Mahavishnu and time energy. Because if you have living entities and Prakriti, but you don't have the time energy, nothing happens. Karma doesn't get activated because you need time energy. The modes of material nature don't get activated because you need time energy. It's really intriguing. And not only who has seen God, but who has seen time? Anyone seen time? You can see the movements of time, but what does time look like? It's the agency by which Krishna does things in this world, like the act of creation, like the act of giving seeds, giving the living entity. Aham bija, bija means seed, That's the living entities, are the seeds of life. So I thought on Father's Day we should honor fathers by honoring the Supreme Father, because one cannot be a father without the Supreme Father. For that matter, we can't do anything without the Supreme Father, with the sanction, the Shaktiman, and the possessor of potency, releasing potency to do something. We can't do anything. We can't walk across the floor. The power of locomotion is a power that's given, and it's a power that can be taken. The power of one father to produce a child, certainly the father needs a mother. There's one devotee I know who said, it's a very nice American devotee, religious Christian lady, said, how many living entities does it take to produce a child? And her answer is 3. Because without God, there's no living entity. There's no production of a child. Even once the original procreation takes place, any subsequent procreation doesn't take place without the sanction of the third. So, we're honoring fathers on Father's Day, we're honoring mothers on Mother's Day, and we're honoring somebody on their birthday and so forth. And when doing that, let us not forget the one who's behind all those things. And this is simply the difference between, this is the simple difference between material and spiritual life. There's a whole chapter, the divine and demoniac nature, in Bhagavad Gita. And the distinction is very simple, very simple. I heard Prabhupada speak about it maybe 100 times. Very simple. Who is accepting that behind everything there is a supreme person. That's the divine, or sura. And the asura is otherwise. There's an interesting story in Lilamrita. In the very early, this is a Prabhupada story. In the very early days of the Hare Krishna movement, Prabhupada, of course, as you know, when crossing the Atlantic Ocean to come to America, he had 2 heart attacks. And he wrote in his diary, if there's another one, I surely will not continue to live. He lived, and he began, and when beginning, he didn't know how long he would have to live. So he was consciously laying the groundwork for the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. So he's the seed-giving father of ISKCON. Now, where did he get the capacity to do that? From his spiritual master. But in the early days, he was acting on principle with some degree of expediency, or not knowing how long he would live. Just like, the production of the first canto Bhagavatam. There were many mistakes, and he knew there were many mistakes, but he printed it. And then instructed editors to edit and how he wanted them to edit it. And there's a lot of work needed to correct mistakes, because there were mistakes, and it's right in his writing. But so he did things like that. So in one situation, he was in San Francisco. He was a very historical event during an era of the She's a nice girl. During a period of time when what Krishna sent, whatever resources Krishna sent to Prabhupada, he engaged in Krishna service. So, for some reason, Krishna chose to send the counterculture people. Like one of his early disciples was Mukunda, later became Mukunda Goswami. But by profession, he was a musician, professional musician. And he was particularly good with percussion. And so Mukunda made an arrangement with some, you won't even believe the names of these, very popular rock bands. One of the big names was the Moby Grape. Really funny name. What's a Moby Grape? And this one and that one, and they had a big concert planned in San Francisco, and Mukunda arranged for Prabhupada to be on stage with those people, and the audience that was, similarly. And Prabhupada went. And he was a hero amongst the counterculture youth. And so they arranged a little, because they didn't have much money, the devotees, so they just arranged a little storefront on Frederick Street in San Francisco. It's really tiny, I've seen the place. And Prabhupada would sit there, and then different young people would come and ask questions, and they didn't know much about anything, and some wanted to be initiated. One of those persons that became initiated later became a sannyasi. But when he came, he had long hair. And, had different ideas, without going into those different ideas. And he was introduced by the local leader, this young man and his girlfriend. They weren't married, just boyfriend, girlfriend. They want to become initiated disciple. So Prabhupada asked them 2 questions. Who is Krishna? Pause. Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And who are you? Pause. I'm Krishna's eternal servant. Prabhupada. Okay, he can be initiated. But he has to cut his hair. And then he decided he didn't want to get initiated because he was too attached to his hair. Then he came back later and said, Prabhupada, why do I have to cut my hair? Jesus Christ had long hair, and Lord Chaitanya had long hair, and this one had long hair. So why do I have to cut my hair? And Prabhupada said, because I like it that way. So he said, okay. I can't even remember why I wanted to tell you that story. But the seed-giving father of the Hare Krishna movement, I guess, because the capacity to give Krishna consciousness, because that's a function of fathers. It's a duty of parents. There's an often quoted statement, one should not, Prabhupada would quote, one should not become a mother or a father or a teacher or a head of state or a guru if you cannot deliver your dependents from birth and death. And there's lots of, in all species of life, mothers and fathers, but the human form of life is meant for self-realization, and parenting, fatherhood, motherhood, in the human form of life is meant for delivering the soul, the dependent, from the cycle of birth and death. Yeah, that was the connection. So the father has a function in the family, amongst other functions, is to be situated in knowledge and to be able to guide the other family members towards the goal of life. Must know what the goal of life is, must have accepted in his heart the goal of life, and be able to at least offer the opportunity. You can't choose for the other family members, but give the opportunity intelligently how to approach the goal of life. What is it? How to approach it. Na te vidu svartakatim hi Vishnu. This is Prahlad speaking to his father, saying that he's just amazed that people of this world, they don't know. Na te vidu. Vid means to know. They don't know. Sva artha. They're really their own self-interest. They don't know what's good for them. Being self-interested is one thing. Knowing what is in one's self-interest is another thing. And fathers have that responsibility as part of being a father, not just producing children and then maintaining the children, but delivering the soul to the conclusion. Life's ultimate goal. That's what fathers do, that's what teachers should do. There's knowledge, but there's transcendental knowledge, and the knowledge spoken about in Bhagavad Gita, jnana vijnanam astikyam brahma karma svabhavajam. It's knowledge of the soul, not just like a university can give knowledge of how to do something. Technology, information technology and engineering and thising and thating, and that's related to the temporal, so that one can have a career and one can do something useful within society. It's needed. And more important, ultimately important, is transcendental knowledge. That's real knowledge, spiritual knowledge. And fathers are meant to give that. Again, teachers, spiritual masters, those that are accepting some kind of responsibility for others. Mothers are to give that. So we're honoring the original Father. And Krishna does. And he gives us the ability to do that. And then we need to receive that ability with gratitude in our heart. To our capacity, we use that in his service. He doesn't need it, we need it. Service to Krishna isn't something that he needs. Service to Krishna is something that we need. And it leads us to, in practical ways, it leads us to the goal of life. While we're carrying out our duties, the mother and father duties of life, or the student becoming a young adult, becoming a young married person, becoming whatever one's going to become, how to do that in such a way it leads to the goal of life. That's spiritual culture. And fathers have a real big role to play, so we're making a little attempt to honor fathers in Father's Day. So we'll stop there and see if there's anybody wants to add something or comment.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Just a small clarification. While Krishna says he's the seed-giving father, elsewhere in Bhagavad Gita he says, never was there a time when you exist or nor I exist.
That's the soul. That statement is in relation to the soul. It's not in relation to the body. And fathers provide the seed that comes from Krishna, eternally existing seed that comes from Krishna, to the mother. In his case, Mahadyoni, which is his potency, his prakriti. Does that address your question?
So when Krishna is saying, "I'm the seed-giving father," he's saying he's facilitating your material body, if I understand correctly?
He's giving, the seed is the soul. He gives the seed or the soul to the Mahad Brahma, to the Prakriti, by his glance. The living entities are impregnated. He's the seed-giving impregnator. The souls. Is that?
Yes, Maharaja.
Okay. Yeah. We got a microphone over here. Right up here. Here it comes, back to Mike. Okay, she's got it. Then you're next. You're next.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. I am trying to understand the undifferentiated Brahman. You said the time, stirring with the time factor, it gives all.
No, I think you're confused.
The undifferentiated Brahman.
Mahad. I started by saying the term Brahman has different meanings depending upon the context.
I mean the Pradhan, so to say.
Pradhan. That's not undifferentiated Brahman. Undifferentiated Brahman is Brahman, Paramatma, Bhagavan, the first of those. That's the undifferentiated Brahman.
Okay, then I mean the Pradhan.
It's Pradhan.
Yes. Pradhan, is it the Pradhan that...
Pradhan.
Yeah, Pradhan. And when you agitate with time, gives all the souls, brings forth all the species of life.
You slow down. You're jumbling things. Let me just do it again and see if it addresses your question.
Yeah.
Material nature is eternal. Sometimes in an unmanifest, sometimes in a manifest. In that unmanifest or avyakta state or pradhan state, pradhan means the undifferentiated totality of material elements.
That's what I meant, actually.
That's what you wanted?
That's what I wanted. And when it is agitated with time...
Well, it's not just time, it's the living entities and time. Actually, it's a third thing. In Brahma Samhita, there's a third thing. It's Kriya Shakti. So, but time and the living entities are sent by the glance of Mahavishnu. That's the act of impregnation. By his eyes, he impregnates, and the living entities and time connect with or impregnate Pradhan.
That's what I wanted to understand.
No, does that take care of your question?
Not really.
What's your question? Be clear what your question is, please.
My question is, that process, I have the periodic table of elements, and that pradhan, can we compare it to, let's say, when we withdraw the time factor, it will go into the initial conglomerate from which these elements came. Is that how?
No, they go back to their unmanifest state.
Unmanifest state. Okay. So it's a conglomerate where there is no distinction between hydrogen, helium, like that.
It's undifferentiated.
Undifferentiated. Yeah. Okay,
it's a big warehouse that everything's all jumbled up. and it's in a subtle or unmanifested state, undifferentiated, unmanifested state.
Thank you.
You have a blender in your home? Okay, it's like that.
Yeah, okay.
You put a bunch of stuff in, turn it on high speed, and it's all jumbled up.
Okay. Thank you, Maharaj.
But even more subtle is the unmanifested or avyakta condition. But it's there. It's just in a subtle, unmanifested, undifferentiated state. That's pradhan.
Yeah.
And then with contact with time, things start to separate out. The helium and the this and the that. The elements separate out.
Yeah. Okay.
Only the Vedic picture is not the periodic table.
But it's a different species.
Yeah, it's a different way of looking at the same thing. Okay?
Okay. Thank you.
We're done? Okay.
Thank you.
Could you bring the microphone up front here? Thank you. It's a nice service. You get to serve the Vaishnavas.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, it's pretty much similar to what Mataji was asking. Just to clarify, so when Mahavishnu, he sees Chaya Devi, and he wants to give her some services to create the material energy.
No, she wants service. She's idle.
So is she in the unmanifested form, as you said? Or she already manifested, because prior to that, was she also annihilated?
No, not annihilated.
Okay.
It's his potency. Potency isn't annihilated. It may become transformed to a different state. You know, matter is neither created nor destroyed, that principle.
Yes.
So it's just in a latent, dormant, unmanifested, undifferentiated state, known as, you can say, pradhan, or we can say the personality behind the pradhan is Chaya Devi. And who is that? She is a reflection of Ramadevi.
Which Devi, Prabhuji, again?
Chaya is a reflection of Rama. The Rama is the internal potency of Vishnu. Like Sita Ram, Radha Krishna, Rama, Mahavishnu. That's his internal potency. And the internal potency, Rama, has her shadow, expansion, the object and the reflection of the object, or the shadow of the object.
So when time comes, she gets manifested, and then the Lords give her services?
Well, not she is manifested. She's just that her state is transformed to it becomes by another name, and then another name. The next name is Mahatattva. Mahatattva is the 24 elements, or is the periodic table. Mahatattva. That's the differentiated state. And there's this and that, 24 elements. And that 24 elements can expand also. You can have subcategories of those. So it's just transformation of state. That's Vyasadev's teaching. His teaching, for those of you that like Sanskrit terms, it's Shakti Parinama Vada. Vada means doctrine. And Parinama means transformation. So we have a note taker over here. Shakti Parinama Vada, the doctrine of the transformation of potency. That's Vyasadev's teaching, and this is just, it's a transformation of state. And whether it's any one of those, it's just the potency of the possessor of the potency. So in one sense, there's no difference. Like there's no difference between the sunshine and the sun, although the shine is not the sun, the source of the shine. The sunshine doesn't exist separately from the sun. The sun doesn't exist without sunshine. They're inseparable. So there's the oneness feature of the whole of creation that gets activated by time and then is deactivated by the withdrawal of time. It's a potency of action through which Mahavishnu, or the Supreme Lord, does his thing. He makes the creation happen. And then comes the demigods that oversee it. And they get their power from the same person. And the presiding deities of the three modes of nature. And when time is withdrawn, the whole show was withdrawn. This is a... Okay. Anything else? Wow.
So, like, where's the whole sciencey bit of this thing start? Does this...
Where is what?
Like, the whole sciencey bit start? Like, what you explained at the beginning, does it start before, like,
it's periodic.
The Big Bang?
There's no before. It's according to the Vedic conception. Veda means this, all the Vedic wisdom. It's cyclical. You want to know, where does the cycle begin? And my answer is, it doesn't begin, it's cyclical.
So
it just keeps recycling and recycling and recycling and recycling. That isn't what the Big Bang cosmology folks say.
Yeah, and then...
But that's what the Vedas say. It's cyclical. It doesn't have a beginning, it's just cyclical.
When everything was undifferentiated,
yes,
does that pretty much mean, like, at the Big Bang part of the cycle, like, all of the cells and stuff were combined?
Well, first of all, there's lots of people out there in the scientific community that poo-poo the Big Bang theory. Rubbish. But those that hold the Big Bang idea say, you know where the bang comes from? It comes from a singularity. And then the singularity explodes and kaboom, and you get matter flying all over the place. But where does singularity come? What is a singularity? Interesting. Unlimited mass in a dimensionless point. That's cool, huh? Unlimited mass in a dimensionless point. And where does the singularity come from? It just exists. My dear Mr. Scientist, what do you know that exists that doesn't have a prior cause? Because their whole thing is trying to dismiss the whole notion of God being the source. Even being, where does the singularity come from? What decides when the singularity explodes? If you're a Big Bang guy, a Big Bang cosmology exponent. Keep going back, and where does the singularity come from, and why does it explode? Why doesn't it explode sooner? Why does it explode later? What's the time energy involved? Who's the controller of when the event happens? What to speak of where the singularity comes from? So, the Vedic picture doesn't even get into all of that. It's just it's a cyclical sequence. It doesn't really match the Big Bang cosmology. Okay? How old are you? 11. Parents, this is what our devotee children are learning in school. So, parents have to be a little tuned in to what kids are learning in school and know the Vedic model, so you can look at both side by side and say, this is the scientific picture and this is the Vedic picture. And the source of knowledge of the scientific picture is imperfect senses and the imperfect power of reasoning. And over here, the source of Vedic knowledge is a perfect person. Pratyaksha, Anuman, and Shabda. Those are the means of knowing things. Pramana. So anyway, parents need, especially with the public education system of our children, you need to know both. And anyway, yeah. I had, just for your sake, there's a really nice devotee who's a physics professor at Washington University. Washington University is in St. Louis. And he didn't know about Krishna consciousness as he was doing his PhD in physics, but he married a nice devotee wife. And slowly his nice devotee wife, very slowly, gently, has been introducing Krishna consciousness. So he's in this interesting space of knowing what he knows as a PhD level in physics. How does it fit with the Vedic picture? You know, you're doing it at 11, he's doing it at a PhD level. So it's, you know, different level, but it's the same principle. And it's an interesting exercise. And there's in short, because the discussions that I've had with him have been very interesting and very lively. Not confrontational kind of lively, just like, you know, thoughtful kind of lively. There are a lot of inconsistencies in the scientific model of time and space and physics. And he knows much more than I know, and much more than you know, about the problems that the scientific community is having with the Big Bang theory. And he doesn't find that same contradiction in the Vedic picture of creation. These, you know, empiric information that it just can't be. Anyway. Anyone else? Microphone? Are you ready to do your announcing? Okay. After this. Help her get the microphone on.
Hello? Okay.
Okay.
It worked. So you might have mentioned this before.
Yeah.
Sorry. So you mentioned time and energy, but what of space? What are the kind of the Vedic conceptions or ideas on space? Is that like a form of energy specifically, or how does that get categorized?
Yes. It's one of the 5: earth, water, fire, air, and space.
Okay.
It's an energy. It's one of the 5 gross elements. You want to hear something interesting about space? Sure, why not? According to Sankhya philosophy, this is, if you want to go there, it's chapter 26, canto 3. Kapila Dev is teaching Sankhya philosophy to his mother. When it comes to, and it's in 3rd canto also, earlier chapters about creation. Space is the element that carries sound. So, in space, it's used all the time in technology, is send a signal through space, bounce it off something, a satellite, and it sends it back through space and, you know, hello. Sound travels. The element that the function of space is, it carries sound. And then each of the senses and the objects of the senses, another one of the elements, carries fragrance, earth. Form is fire, and so forth. It's, you know, it's a model of how to look at things. The Vedic model. But, if you wanted to be a creator, if you wanted to be Lord Brahma, because he's not Vishnu, he just puts the thing together. You have to know how the whole thing works. And that's the model that he uses. It's so I've heard less discussion about space than I have about time. And I've heard less about time than I would really like, because it's a far out, fascinating, mysterious, you know. Stephen Hawkins was, one of his final things was about parallel universes and mystery of time. And what was the title of his last book? Something about time. something about time. I just saw something. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Maharaj. Let us all express our gratitude to Maharaj by loudly saying Hari Bol. Hari Bol! As I was introducing earlier, Maharaj travels all over the world. He goes and helps a lot of students understand science and the perspective of Vedic wisdom. And Maharaj also every year conducts yatras. So Maharaj has a very, very special gift for anybody who's interested. Maharaj conducted 2 yatras, one in Ayodhya Puri Dham and Dwaraka Dham. Very, very special. So, Maharaj has USB sticks, memory sticks, with special videos, pictures, and lectures about pastimes and glories of Lord Krishna. If you're interested, please, get a copy from Maharaj. It's a small donation of $50 per copy. It goes towards many projects that Maharaj is taking care after. So please kindly take some time after the lecture to meet Maharaj and get a copy for yourself. It's a very, very, very rare opportunity to get this media for yourself. And as usual, our Sunday feast is only possible by generous donors. This week's Sunday feast sponsors are Abhay Kumar Prabhu and family. They're seeking blessings for their family and parents. Abhay Kumar Prabhuji. So let us all chant the Mahamantra once, seeking the blessings of Lord Krishna for this family. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And also our Sunday feast is only possible by a lot of volunteers. There's a lot of volunteers who cook downstairs, who clean the pots, who clean the whole temple. Today's volunteers for cooking are Shrikant Prabhu and his team, and the cleaning volunteers are Vrindavan Prabhu, Lingaraj Prabhu, Bhuvan Kumar Prabhu, Ankit Prabhu, and Rohini Nandan Prabhu. Let us all express our gratitude to them by loudly saying Hari Bol. Yes. And lastly, Acharya Mr. Prabhu will be speaking about 2 minutes. A very, very special night after the prasadam. We have a very, very special kirtan night today. Acharya Mr. Prabhu will speak on that. Yes, again, please make sure what Prabhu wants to insist is about, it's a very, very rare opportunity about the media file that Maharaj has. It's a very small generous donation which is going to be used for Maharaj's activities and projects. It's about Ayodhya Dham and Dwaraka Dham, very special media files. Very nice pictures about the different temples and the deities, and the videos and the audio lectures there.
So anybody interested on that, you can please come forward this side and talk to me. We can go and collect this USB port from Maharaj, and you can have that. So please, we encourage everyone. If you don't have, whether you have, some of you might have already taken last time when we did it. If not, please come forward. These are the way we appreciate this work that is being done. And there is a huge investment that to make that video and clips, and every bit of dollars or donations goes to back to the same organization who built this, and goes to New York Temple. So please, I encourage everyone, please come forward. If you have, if you don't have, please see whatever you can do. Thank you. Sorry.
Hare Krishna. I actually have 2 announcements. First is a mark your calendar, July 4th. We're having a very special event, and we're inviting congregational members. You'll have some time off. Please join us. It's a very special yoga and meditation retreat. It's called a Kirtan Mela Festival. So we'll be coming together after an event in Chicago, the Festival of the Holy Name. We'll be going to a beautiful eco farm, and we're inviting everyone to come. Please bring someone new, someone maybe you know. This is a very Western-friendly event, so if you know someone maybe from work or out, we're giving them opportunity to join the beautiful practice of chanting the holy name. So mark your date. There'll be details coming soon, but plan your 4th with us chanting Hare Krishna. And finally, yes, it's called Stonehouse Farm. It's in Earlville, near Paw Paw, DeKalb area. It's about 45 minutes to 1 hour from here. It's a retreat from not just our material engagement, but also a beautiful, serene, peaceful community in the woods, in the farm. So take a break from the hectic life in suburbia also. Finally, but not least, we have a very, very special guest with us tonight, His Grace Atmarama Prabhu. He's visiting from Vrindavan. He's a very senior devotee in our movement, practicing Krishna consciousness over 30 years. And he's taken the time to travel in the West to share the beautiful message of Krishna consciousness through music. Specifically, Prabhu is a very expert classical guitar player. He plays a variety of styles. So we're very familiar with kirtan and harmonium, but tonight we have a very special performance and collective chanting with guitar and a beautiful journey through sound. Prabhu's heart is filled with devotion. He wants to share that with all of us. So we know sometimes after the class announcements there's prasad, and sometimes we go. We're asking everyone, please stay tonight. It's going to be a very special performance, something very unique, and you'll carry that with you in your heart. Prabhu has been preaching all over the world, also since 2004 in China, sharing Hare Krishna mantra and this beautiful practice and teachings throughout the world. So, very popular in China. Yeah. He also has a new CD. He's on tour with a new CD. You'll see it. It's beautiful. It's available, and it's encompassing a variety of different styles. It's not just one genre, but you get rock, classical, ballad, Andean, traditional Spanish type music, and songs are in English and Spanish, so that's available only $15. Once you hear it, you'll want to pick it up. So please add that to your listening pleasure. Thank you all so very much. Thank you, Maharaj. Hare Krishna.